First of all, I have to say that I've always found it really important that you didn't try and be didactic with your comedy, that if you see your comedy as having a role in enabling political change, then you're kind of fucked from the start, really, that hampers you. I think that's a tremendous mistake. And I know there are other artists who would disagree, but I think that is a template, really, but never to see it as having a revolutionary purpose, really, but to talk about those ideas. And if it excites ideas, but I think you've got to, I mean, comedy, I think, is also about critiquing yourself and critiquing where you come from. And a great deal of my comedy, certainly in the early days and even now, was about mocking the left, really, in an affectionate way. I mean, it's always made it clear that my allegiances were with the left. Yeah. There was a photographer called Red Saunders, I think Trotskyist, who was very instrumental in Rock Against Racism and Red Wedge. And I remember doing a benefit for them, I think, in Brockwell Park. And after I came off, he said, you know, why are you doing all this stuff about the left? You should be criticizing the Tories. And I said, well, what's the fucking point of that? You know, these people already know about the fucking Tories. Why, you know? And I think he had that idea that, you know, with Red Wedge and Rock Against Racism and stuff, that it could be a political tool. Maybe he was right, but that was never my inclination, you know. Not through art. No, I mean, the way you change the world is through politics, really. I think that it just hampers you as an artist, I think. I mean, I wanted people to make people laugh, really. A lot of my comedy is political. Obviously, it's about politics. So no, they're intertwined. But you know, comedy doesn't exist if people don't laugh. I mean, although you'd be hard pushed to realize that sometimes. Yeah, I mean, I was a tremendous. I mean, I suppose Brecht, partly because I don't know whether I'm much more. Brecht's theories always spoke to me much more than, say, you know, Stanislavski or somebody like that. So I loved an allision between cabaret and theatre, which I think was very innovative. You know, he was obsessed with the kind of cabaret scene in Germany. You know, very inspirational, I think, and that whole kind of idea of alienation, of stepping outside and of suddenly taking people of surprising people, of not taking them where they think they are going. You know, well, he didn't, I guess, invent that. It's done amazingly in his work. Really, he probably did think that his work could affect political change, you know, but there's got a very funny comedian called Peter Cook from the 1960s in Fringe, and he said he opened a club in Soho called the Establishment Club, and he said he wanted the Establishment Club to replicate all those cabaret clubs in the Weimar Republic that had such success defeating the rise of Hitler. Yeah, so you know. I would go back slightly before that, in a way, and say that part of the offer of socialism has often been a kind of finger wagging kind of, you must do this because it's morally right, and you know, it's been a very joyless kind of appeal, really. And I think that the socialists should make much more of the fact that socialism will bring you joy, really. And that also gives you a kind of a line into your opponents, in a sense, because you're saying to your opponents, capitalists and bankers who are by and large miserable, that doesn't stop them ruining the planet, but to say you can be joyful too, and the way to do that is to stop doing these terrible things that you're doing. So I've been for a while now thinking that, you know, the proposition of socialism must be much more about that, really. I mean, then coming to your question, I mean, it's your question about the joyfulness of revolutions is partly about the proximity of danger. I think that just the prospect of getting shot, you know, makes you extraordinarily excited. You know, to be in any kind of riot is the most profoundly kind of exciting experience, I think. So it's partly about that, but then it's also obviously about solidarity and I think one of the tactics that the right uses is also that if you attack a revolution, as say the Soviet Revolution, that very quickly that joyfulness is sacrificed for a kind of grim kind of war kind of mentality, really. I mean, you saw that very quickly with the Soviet Union, that explosion of joyful propaganda didn't last that long, and the reason for it was the civil war, really, and the actions of the Western powers. So I mean, it's a win-win for them, really, because they either physically destroy the revolution or the revolution destroys itself, really, I think, by abandoning joyfulness, I think, because they say, well, we've got to get this fight, we've got to save the revolution, we've got to root out spies, we've only got to have the most basic propaganda. But I think as soon as you get to the point where you say, the revolution, will be defeated if we don't take these authoritarian measures, then the revolution is defeated anyway. So I think so. There's no sort of point, really, if you don't. I think, really, it seems the only way forward. And obviously, people are looking for ways to do that. There's this, perhaps I've heard some criticism, but perhaps the experiment with kind of revolutionary kind of feminism in Rojava is a Marxist kind of. People keep looking. People are creative. Those other models on the left have failed, really. I think, that awful kind of proceduralism of the left, It's perhaps a deliberate tactic to exclude all but the most kind of fanatical, and all but those who are dead inside, the sort of right of the Labour Party, who are a kind of a zombie class, really, the people who are eaten away from the inside by their own ambition, and that kind of meeting benefits them. And I think the left can also fall into that trap of doing a lot of stuff, like in the Labour Party, just for the sake of spending weeks on creating motions that are never going to get passed, or if they get passed, they're only going to be thrown in the bin. And I think, why are you doing this? You do it just to keep yourself busy. If you're going to get a revolutionary movement, it's got to be bottom up. But on the other hand, I've always been a fan of Alcoholics Anonymous, where they only let people speak for 3 minutes before you're shown a yellow card. So I think it's really important that people shouldn't be allowed to talk endlessly, because that's another kind of trope of left-wing meeting. If you can't say what you want in 3 minutes, then it's got to be from the bottom up, but make it fucking snappy as well. When Jeremy Corbyn became leader of the Labour Party, it suddenly shone a spotlight on all these inequalities. The fact that the media is just a kind of incestuous web of people who are friends or are married to or politically aligned with each other, really, a very small group. But Jeremy was outside that. Jeremy also was going to make the rich pay their taxes. He was going to challenge the belligerent defense armament stance of the West, and various other matters. Was threatened to promote a kind of a genuine democracy rather than the kind of fake democracy that we have. And for all those reasons, it was essential. I think that proved a shock, I think, to the system, and it proved a shock. And so those ideas really had to be completely driven out of the public discourse, really. Yeah, Matthew offered MP for, I think, Brent or somewhere like that. It is also a sign of the repressive times that we live in that something like that would have even been attempted, and like the hashtag, I stand with Alexei Sayle went viral on Twitter and all that stuff. But it's, which was great, but it's also kind of dreadful that an artist such as myself should have to even be faced with that. That generally surprised me, the kind of lack of courage that was shown by the vast majority of figures in the entertainment business that you would have thought would have been supportive, would have shown a bit more bravery, that they did completely collapse, without really an awful lot of pressure. I know it's like when you take up the floorboards of your house and you see that it's been eaten by termites. I think that it is. It was shocking to me how the best you would get a kind of equivalency between Jeremy and there's plenty that you could certainly mock about Corbyn and the left, but the kind of the willingness to accept the lies. There were exceptions, Josie Long, people like Stormzy, and is a powerful and very articulate voice and low key. And the collapse of all them fucking panel shows and stuff. I personally think that the mistake maybe some on the left made, certainly in the Labour Party made, in a tactical sense, is to try and appease those bad faith actors on the other side, to think that by making concessions to them or apologizing to them that they would back off, where of course all that it did was encourage them to go further and to dig deeper. And I think that as a kind of tactic of warfare, as it were, to concede is never a good idea. That they should never have, that policy of appeasement was always mistaken, really, and that allowed this kind of censorship and eradication of left voices was stoppable, but certainly it was vastly hampered by the policy of the left in the first place of conceding, making stations and not going strong and not rebutting this in the first place. The absolute lies of the idea, the false idea of left anti-Semitism is to never concede that idea, because it's a lie. I quite like Novara Media, I must say. So I'm less critical of them. But obviously Owen Jones, particularly because he works for the Guardian, which I think has been a leading actor in the assault on the left. Really, I think he's more tainted with this. But you're right. What you say, the acceptance that the opposition, the Jewish Labour movement and stuff are not solely really pro-Israel lobbyists. You can't win if you accept that they're not bad faith actors. For me, it's been a tremendous opportunity. Your hopes destroyed, but me, and I think because I was also probably the only kind of even leading or semi-leading in kind of entertainment figure who didn't resile at all from Corbyn, who didn't accept any of the smears, who absolutely stated, my last series on Radio 4, which just finished, I explicitly say that the left racism doesn't exist, or it's a lie, which I don't think is particularly brave thing to say, but people are so kind of intimidated. I think I'm lucky in this. I have several advantages. That obviously being Jewish is an advantage, although that doesn't, as we've seen, that doesn't necessarily save you. But also because I've been around so long that I've been in the entertainment business professionally for 43 years now. So I adapt. I think that, more age change, you adapt. I made a resolution very early on not to complain. The primary directive is to make people laugh, and then all the other shit secondary, It's about austerity, and how about the idea that the worldwide financial crash of 2008 was caused by Wolverhampton having too many libraries, which is one of my own jokes. But we're going to go through another period of that now where somehow, failures of the world economic market mean your local library will have to close. It's absurd. It's austerity is a political choice, and it's a device to transfer wealth to the wealthy. the series that you're doing seems original, really. Like I say, there's too much concentration on the small picture, really, without looking at the big while we're doing this shit, you know.